Well, the president leaves us no choice. Those words from U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi as she announced that Congress would begin the task of writing articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. Pelosi said that with the 2020 election looming, Congress can't afford to wait any longer. Her comments are the strongest indication yet of how quickly Democrats are moving on impeachment towards a vote that could come before Christmas.
The president leaves us no choice but to act because he is trying to corrupt, once again, the election for his own benefit. Sadly, but with confidence and humility, with allegiance to our founders and a heart full of love for America, today I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment.
Well, I want to bring in CNN political commentator and Washington Post assistant editor David Swerdlick. Good to have you with us, David.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Good, good. So the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, simply pointed out that the facts are uncontested. She said democracy is at stake. And she said, obviously, as you just heard there, the president leaves us no other choice. What do we need to watch out for in the coming days?
So I think we're looking ahead to next week when the House will shape up its articles of impeachment, the actual items for which they will take a full House vote. Probably they'll center in the areas of abuse of power, a charge of possibly of bribery, and possibly of obstruction too. But we have to wait and see what they actually come up with. One question among Democrats in the House is whether or not they want to narrowly focus this around the issues surrounding the president's interaction with the president of Ukraine and asking to essentially intervene to announce an investigation about Vice President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, and the company Burisma, or whether they want to expand that out into questions that involved the Mueller report from earlier this year involving the 2016 election. And it depends on which faction of Democrats prevail to decide whether this is going to be narrower or wider in scope.
And what we saw, is certainly from the scholars that we heard Wednesday during the witnesses, were constitutional experts, three that were democratically appointed, one from the Republican side. And of course, the democratically appointed experts all made a strong case for impeachment, whereas the one appointed by the Republican said it was a weak case. This seems to be going down party lines yet again.
It does. The three witnesses called by the Democrats did, as you say, all make the case that they believed there were grounds to proceed with impeachment. The Republican called witness, Professor Jonathan Turley from George Washington University, made the case. He never said actually that he thought that there was no case for impeachment, only that the case had not been made yet. The Democrats needed to gather more evidence and call more witnesses. But yes, expect this, as you say, to go along party lines. There are probably no Republican votes in the House for impeachment. The one person who was sort of a Republican, Congressman Amash, who used to be a Republican, now independent, might vote with the Democrats. I expect much the same when this goes to a trial in the Senate. This really has become a very partisan, divided issue.
It certainly has. David Swerdlick, first from the Washington Post, CNN contributor. Good to have you with us, as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
We're going to stay on this story. I want to get some additional insight on what today's announcement by the Speaker of the House means. I'm joined by former U.S. Justice Department Prosecutor Joseph Moreno, as well as CNN senior congressional correspondent Many Raju. First to you, in terms of now that we have Manu, I just want to go back to that sound we saw at the end of Speaker Pelosi's news conference. Clearly, she was very upset. It was indeed a head-turning moment. She was asked if she hated Donald Trump, and the Speaker doesn't generally engage in questions at the end of a conference as she leaves the room. But this one stopped her in her tracks, and she went back to the podium. She was visibly angry. Let's just take a listen to what she said.
This is about the Constitution of the United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office. And as a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me. I don't hate anyone. I was raised in a way that is a heart full of love, and always prayed for the president. And I still pray for the president. I pray for the president all the time. So don't mess with me when it comes to words like that.
Don't mess with me. Well, Manu, you followed the Speaker for years as a congressional correspondent. Have you ever seen her react like that?
No, never. And she has made clear she's been frustrated with me plenty of times in my back and forth with her over the years, certainly in the recent months, but never that quite like that. She was visibly angry. She was wagging her finger at the reporter, telling her she took exception to his question. And the question he was trying to ask, he said, was about what the Republicans have been saying, that they're simply trying to impeach President Trump because they hate the president. And that's what she was objecting to. And it was also significant because the argument that she has been trying to make is that the Democrats are reluctantly moving forward with impeachment. She's trying to project an image of the party that wanted to deal with other issues, not deal with impeachment, but the president's actions, as she said, left them no choice, that they had to move forward because in their view, the president violated the Constitution. So when the suggestion was made that it was a personal decision, that's what really set her off this morning. But we'll get a sense to see more of her, of course, tonight when our own Jake Tapper asked her questions in a CNN town hall about this. But she is trying to make clear that she didn't want to come to this, but ultimately was forced to.
Yeah, she certainly was very reluctant to push ahead with this impeachment. I want to ask Joseph about that in just a moment. But first to you, Manu, on the president's reaction to Pelosi's response to that reporter. He took to Twitter, as he does, and said that Pelosi was having a nervous fit and said that he does not believe that she prays for him. What do you think he's hoping to accomplish by attacking the Democratic leader?
Well, he's been doing this for some time, going after her, calling her nervous Nancy, attacking, calling her names. He called her a horrible person, of course, while sitting in front of the American Cemetery in Normandy. He's been not shy, of course, with throwing those insults against the House Speaker. And they've had their intense moments of meetings in which she stormed out of because of the way the president dealt with her in several of those meetings. So things have not been going well with these two. What the president is trying to do is try to make this all about Democrats overreach. Democrats don't have a case. They just want to get him out of office. They're unhinged in his view. It's a political argument he's trying to make. It's mostly to rile up his base. We'll see how much it helps with the center of the country. But as we do know, the country is very divided over impeachment, as about half the country supports removing him and impeaching him. That's still a significant amount, but it still shows that a lot of voters just are not there yet, despite what they're hearing from these revelations, Lynda.
Many Raju, as always, good to have you with us on this very important story. Thanks so much. Joseph, I want to get to you about the articles of impeachment, because this is what the Democrats have said to be considering. They're saying that there's an abuse of power and bribery as it relates to Ukraine. They're also saying obstruction of Congress for the president refusing to hand over documents and preventing officials from testifying. And they're also saying obstruction of justice for the way the president tried to block the Mueller investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. As a former prosecutor, what do you make of those charges? How strong is the case?
So, Lynda, I think you're absolutely right. You provided the framework of what are most likely to be the articles of impeachment. There was a lot of back and forth in yesterday's hearing about whether you need a crime in order to impeach a president. Some people feel yes, others feel no. But the consensus yesterday among all four witnesses was technically you don't need a crime. So I think you are going to see a little back and forth about this bribery versus abuse of office or abuse of power, and whether or not technically the bribery violation is there, or if it's a little more amorphous. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because it's what the House says it is. So I think you might see a bit of a side argument about whether there's a crime or not. At the end of the day, doesn't really matter if the evidence is there and the House votes in favor of impeachment. As far as obstruction of justice, that's another one. And we saw some tussling back and forth over whether defying a congressional subpoena by going to court and asserting privilege is itself obstruction of justice. And there were some good back and forths yesterday about whether or not that's impeachable. But again, at the end of the day, it's whatever the House decides. It's no court is going to reach in here and say yes or no, you can or cannot impeach President Trump on those grounds. So I think it's really a combination of the theories we heard yesterday, the evidence we've heard over the last few weeks, but then really every individual member of Congress will have to decide for him or herself, if the evidence matches the theory, and if so, to vote for impeachment or not.
Right. You broke that down for us very well, Joseph. And just for our viewers, I just want to play some sound made by the Republican-appointed legal witness yesterday who says there has not been enough of an investigation yet to pursue something as serious as impeachment. Let's just play that sound.
The abbreviated period of this investigation, which is problematic and puzzling. This is a facially incomplete and inadequate record in order to impeach a president. We have a record of conflicts, defenses that have not been fully considered, unsubpoenaed witness with material evidence. To impeach a president on this record would expose every future president to the same type of inchoate impeachment.
Joseph, what do you make of that argument? Because we obviously had the three experts on the Constitution who were appointed by the Democrats who said there is enough evidence, it's very strong. And then this expert, also on the Constitution, who said the case is weak.
So Professor Turley, who you just played right there, when he introduced himself, he said, I am a law professor, but I'm also a defense lawyer. And as a defense lawyer myself, part of our job is to pick apart a prosecution. So we're always going to argue there's not enough evidence, you need more time, and you don't have basically what you need to convict, or in this case, impeach my client. So I think he makes a good argument, and certainly it's an argument that anyone on the defense side is going to make. And again, it's really a question of subjectivity, that every member of Congress can't really hide behind what some expert says. Each one of them is going to have to say, yes, I think the evidence is here and I'm comfortable voting for impeachment, or no, I want to hear more. I want to see more evidence. I want to see more documents. I want to hear from more witnesses. So, and I think, at the end of the day, the real jury is the American people, and the American people will decide if they felt this was a fair or unfair process, ultimately, when it comes down to it.
That's it. It certainly is going to come down to that election next year. Former U.S. Justice Department Prosecutor Joseph Moreno, great to get your perspective. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Linda. Always a pleasure.
Well, CNN is hosting a town hall with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tonight. That is at 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night, which is 10 a.m. Friday in Hong Kong.